She raised her glass, winked at the crowd, and said it like it was the cleverest thing in the world. I'd trade my husband for 5 minutes of peace or a man who actually knows how to use a drill. Laughter erupted, not polite laughter. Real loud, snorting, elbow-tapping kind of laughter. Glasses clinked, someone actually applauded. And I just stood there, not even at the table. I was 2 feet away, returning from the bar with her drink in my hand. Everyone saw me. Everyone knew, but no one said a thing. It was some backyard birthday party. I think her old college friend turned 35. The details blur. What I remember is the cake had her name spelled wrong and no one cared because everyone was too busy playing Chloe's favorite game, publicly humiliate Mark. Yeah, I said it. That's me. Mark, the human doormat, the lovable loser, the guy you joke about upgrading from when the cocktails hit. She once called me her forever plan B during a wedding toast, told a roomful of strangers that I wasn't her first choice, just the one who stuck around long enough. And I laughed like an idiot, because what else do you do when your wife turns your life into a sitcom and you're the punchline? But this joke, that night, something about it cracked the glass. Not just the metaphorical one, I mean a real one. The drink I was holding slipped from my hand and shattered against the patio stones. Everyone turned. Silence this time. Real silence. She looked at me like I had ruined her punchline. And that's when I said it. Calm, measured, no drama. If you're so eager to trade me in, you better make sure the next guy can afford you. Dead. Silence. She blinked just once. Then her mouth twitched, like she didn't know whether to laugh it off or lash out. The birthday girl whispered, "Whoa." Some guy muttered, "Damn." I walked back inside, past the stunned faces, past her wide eyes, and out the front door. I didn't yell. I didn't slam it. I just left it open, long enough for her to follow. She didn't. She never does. That was the moment everything shifted. Not because I stood up for myself, but because she suddenly realized I could. And if you think that was awkward, wait until you hear what happened next. The hours after I left that party weren't loud or emotional. No storming off, no dramatic music. Just a man in a quiet car, hands trembling on the steering wheel, driving aimlessly past closed gas stations and flickering motel signs. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry. I felt hollow, like someone had unplugged me from my own life. I stopped at a 24-hour diner, sat in a booth that smelled like syrup and old leather, and stared at my reflection in the window for an hour. That's when it hit me. She wasn't going to text. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not even to ask where I went. When I finally dragged myself home, the porch light was off. No note. No, "Where are you?" Not even a missed call. Just silence. Inside, the house looked exactly the same, but felt completely different. Her shoes were by the door like always. The lemony candle was still burning. But for the first time in years, I looked around and realized none of it felt like it was mine. It was her kingdom. I had just been existing in it. I didn't sleep in our bed that night. I lay on the couch with my jacket still on and stared at the ceiling fan. In the morning, I woke up stiff, my phone still blank. No, "I'm sorry." No, "That went too far." Nothing. Just a muted group chat and a notification from the weather app telling me it might rain. She came home around noon, walked in like she owned the world. No apology, no explanation. She just looked at me, tossed her bag on the counter, and said, "You left early." I waited. I wanted her to say more, to explain, to even fake some concern. But all she did was grab a bottle of sparkling water and start scrolling through her phone. I asked carefully, "Do you even know what you said last night?" She didn't even look up. "It was a joke, Mark. People laughed. Why are you acting like I insulted your mother?" I think that moment broke something in me. Not because she was cruel, but because she genuinely didn't think anything was wrong. In her head, I was being dramatic, sensitive, weak. But weakness has its limit. I didn't fight, I didn't yell. I just stood up, grabbed my laptop, and sat in the guest room, locked the door, and I started writing a letter. Not to her, to myself. A kind of manifesto. I listed every moment I'd laughed off the humiliation, every time I'd been made to feel small. I wrote it all down, page after page, until my fingers hurt. I needed to see it, to see what I'd allowed. She knocked once. "Are you seriously doing this?" she asked through the door, hiding in the spare room. No, I thought. Not hiding, preparing. Because the next time we're in a room full of people and she tries to turn me into a joke again, she won't like the punchline I've been writing. The guest room was never meant to be mine. It still had her old boxes stacked in the closet, a broken lamp we never replaced, and that ridiculous wallpaper with little boats that she once said made her feel calm. I didn't feel calm. I felt like a squatter in my own house. But for the first time in years, I also felt something else. Stillness. No snide comments, no eye rolls, no cold silence after a question she didn't want to answer. Just quiet. The kind that creeps under your skin and asks if you're ready to do something about it. The second morning in that room, I noticed she wasn't trying to win me back. No texts during the day, no gentle knock on the door. She was walking around like nothing had changed. Actually, no. She was walking taller, like she had space to breathe now that I'd locked myself away from her. She started playing music while she got dressed, humming along to those pop songs she once mocked. She left home earlier, came back later. I heard her giggle on the phone more than once. Not with me, obviously. That's when I checked the cell plan. It was still under my name. So I logged in, and what I saw stopped me cold. Dozens of late-night calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. Short ones, then longer ones, then calls that lasted over an hour. Every night I was on that couch, staring at the ceiling, she was whispering into the phone with someone else. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I started watching closer. She took a new perfume out of the drawer, one I'd never seen before. Her makeup changed. She bought new earrings and wore them with clothes that had been pushed to the back of her closet for years. Tight dresses, low backs, deep reds. She wasn't dressing for me. That Friday, I heard her on the phone again. The bedroom door was cracked. Her voice dropped to that soft tone she never used on me anymore. I leaned closer, quiet as I could. I couldn't catch the whole conversation, but I heard enough. She said, "He's still sulking. I think he'll give up soon. He always does." I think my heart stopped. Not because she said it, but because she was right. That's exactly what I'd always done. Let her win, let her laugh, let her trample over me because I thought that was love. I believed enduring her cruelty was proof of my loyalty. But in that moment, outside our bedroom door, something shifted in my spine. I didn't storm in. I didn't cry. I walked away, straight to my car, drove to the nearest pharmacy, and bought a burner phone. Then I called the number she'd been whispering to every night. A man answered. His voice was smooth, confident, and immediately suspicious. "Hello?" he said. I didn't speak. I just listened to the background. I heard a television, someone laughing, and then a second voice, female, distant, hers. She was there with him. That night, I hung up. When I got home, she was already asleep, or pretending to be. I stood by the door and stared at her for a long time, wondering how many other times she'd looked like that, peaceful, innocent, while living a second life right under my nose. But I didn't wake her. I had a better idea. The next morning, I packed a small bag, just enough to look casual, and placed a folded note on her vanity. She didn't see me leave. Not yet. But I needed to disappear just long enough to remind her what silence really felt like. She didn't call. Not that day, not the next. I'd expected at least a fake concern text. Where are you? Or can you grab milk? Or even her usual passive-aggressive, "You left your shoes out again."
But nothing came through. My absence wasn't noticed. Or worse, it was, and she welcomed it. I stayed in a cheap motel about 30 minutes from home, the kind of place with flickering hallway lights and vending machines that still took coins. I didn't go there to punish her. I went there to remember who I was without her breathing down my neck. And let me tell you, it was strange realizing how much of myself I had chipped away to keep her comfortable. I spent the first night staring at the ceiling tiles, running through every argument we ever had, every time I gave in just to keep the peace. She always told me I was too much, too emotional, too clingy, too insecure. But sitting there in silence, I realized she didn't hate those parts of me. She needed them. They made her feel superior, strong, like she was the one doing me a favor by staying. But in that moment, outside our bedroom door, something shifted in my spine.
The second night, I wrote another letter. Not to her, to the guy she was calling. I didn't intend to send it, but I needed to say the words out loud, even if only on paper. Congratulations, man. You've got her attention now. Enjoy the flattery, the seductive texts, the little digs she makes about me to make herself feel clever. But give it time. She'll laugh at your quirks in public, too. She'll turn your insecurities into party games, and when you finally stop laughing, she'll roll her eyes like you're the one with the problem. I hope you like walking on eggshells. I folded the letter and shoved it into the drawer next to the motel Bible. Then, on the morning of the third day, my phone finally lit up. Chloe, where are you? Chloe, you're being ridiculous. Chloe, are you seriously doing this over a joke? Grow up. There it was. Not a single line about missing me. No concern, no softness, just irritation that her emotional punching bag had wandered off without permission. I stared at those messages, reread them 10 times, and then turned off my phone. Around noon, I drove back. Not to move back in, not to beg. I just wanted to see what she looked like when she had to face an empty room and a mirror. When I walked through the door, she was in the kitchen. No makeup, hair a mess, still in pajamas. She didn't speak right away, just looked at me with narrowed eyes, like I'd broken some unspoken rule by not answering her texts. I assume you're done sulking, she finally muttered, stirring her coffee like it had wronged her. I didn't reply. I walked past her into the bedroom and picked up the note I'd left on her vanity. She hadn't even opened it, still folded, untouched. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't matter enough for curiosity. Her ego had convinced her I'd return on my knees. She was wrong. I came back, I said calmly, holding the note, to get the rest of my things. She scoffed. You're being dramatic. No, I've been quiet for so long. You think silence means obedience? It doesn't anymore. I didn't wait for a response. I turned, grabbed my bag, and walked out again. This time, for real. And this time, I didn't leave the door open behind me. It wasn't until I left for the second time, not saying goodbye, not slamming doors, not leaving a dramatic note behind, just disappearing, that she finally realized something was off. This time, I didn't check into a motel. I went to stay with my cousin Leo. We hadn't spoken in years, not really. But when I showed up on his porch with a bag and no expression, he didn't ask questions. He just stepped aside and said, "You can take the basement." And I did. No judgment, no pity, just silence, the good kind. The next morning, I turned my phone back on, mostly out of curiosity. 15 missed calls, 8 texts. They didn't start concerned. They started annoyed. Then they shifted. A picture of the cat sleeping alone on the bed. A blurry selfie of her holding a mug and looking sad. A message that simply said, "So, this is how it ends." I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because every time I started to type, I realized I had nothing left to say. What do you say to someone who laughed while they belittled you in front of others, then expected you to crawl back with a smile? Leo eventually broke the silence one night over beer and leftover pizza. "You look like someone who's finally drowning after pretending to swim for years," he said without looking at me. I let out this strange, bitter laugh because he wasn't wrong. I had been pretending for years, pretending her snide comments were funny, pretending I didn't mind being the afterthought, pretending she still saw me. On the third day, Chloe called again. I let it ring out. But that night, I listened to the voicemail. Her voice was tight, almost strangled. "I miss you. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mark. Can we talk, please?" I played it 3 times. She'd never said please like that before. But still, I didn't go back. Instead, I drove by the house after midnight. Lights were off, porch dark, but her car wasn't alone. A silver SUV I didn't recognize was parked across the street, and my gut knew. The quiet inside my chest got louder. It wasn't suspicion anymore, it was certainty. I didn't knock, I didn't make a scene. I took a photo of the car, time-stamped it, and left. 2 days later, I sent her a message. Just one line. "I know who he is. I know how long. I'm done." No name, no questions, just the truth. Straight and silent. She didn't reply right away, but 4 hours later, she called, and this time I picked up. Her voice was shaking. "Mark, wait, it's not what you think. Please, I didn't mean for it to happen like this." I didn't yell. I just listened. And when she paused, expecting a reaction, I said, "You joked about trading me in. I hope he was worth the price." That was the first time I ever heard her cry without trying to win. No manipulation, no twist, just stunned silence on the other end. And finally, that silence felt like closure. The morning after that call, I woke up to a full inbox. Not just texts from Chloe, but emails too. Long ones, paragraphs where she poured out justifications, half-confessions, desperate rewrites of the truth. In her version, everything was vague and blurry. It wasn't serious. It just happened. I was confused. He meant nothing. But she never said the one thing I needed to hear. "I'm sorry." Because that would have required admitting that she deliberately hurt me. And Chloe never apologized for deliberate things, only for accidents. I didn't respond. Not to punish her, but because I didn't trust myself to keep it clean. And I had to keep it clean. Not for her, for me. I'd spent too many years losing my temper in my own head, only to smile through gritted teeth at dinner parties and pretend we were fine. I wasn't going to give her a single tear this time. No more angry speeches, no more emotional breakdowns. Just a steady unraveling of the life she thought I'd never walk away from. I made a list, quietly. Everything I'd paid for in that house. The mortgage solely in my name. The furniture, 90% bought on my card. The car? Hers. But the loan? Mine. Even the damned Netflix account was under my email. I started calling numbers, canceling things, transferring accounts. The more I did, the more I realized how deeply I'd built that world and how little she had invested beyond appearances. 3 days later, she sent me a photo of herself in our bedroom. She'd made the bed, placed one of my hoodies on the pillow, and captioned it, "I miss you here." I stared at it for a long time, but all I saw was staging, a performance. She hadn't even thought to ask what I missed. Probably because she assumed I missed her. But I didn't. I missed me. The me I used to be before I became the background noise in her show. The final straw came on a Thursday. I was sitting in Leo's basement when I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice, mid-30s, nervous. "Hey, is this Mark? Look, I think we need to talk." I froze. My gut already knew who it was. The guy. The upgrade she joked about. He said her name like they were still involved. Said he didn't know she was married when it started. Claims she told him we were separated but living under the same roof. He sounded embarrassed. But what hit hardest was this. She said you'd never leave, that you needed her more than she needed you. I didn't realize. He trailed off. I didn't help him finish. I just thanked him, told him I appreciated the honesty, and hung up. My hands were shaking.
Not from rage, from something worse. Recognition. She had never loved me the way I loved her. Not really. I was a prop in her life. A stable character she could mold and mock to fit the story she told everyone else. But props don't speak, and mine just did. That night, I booked an appointment with a divorce attorney. I didn't tell her. Not yet. I needed to see her face when I finally said the words she never expected. Because when you build an empire of mockery and secrets, you forget that even the quiet ones have a breaking point, and I had just reached mine. It happened on a Sunday, fitting, really, the quietest day of the week, the one she used to spend lounging in robes and posting filtered pictures we didn't eat. I called her that morning and asked if she'd be home around noon. She sounded surprised, maybe even hopeful. "Yeah? Are you coming by?" Her voice was lighter, like she thought this was me giving in again. I told her I just needed a few minutes. She said, "Okay," and I could hear the smile forming.
I didn't dress up, just jeans, an old jacket, and a folder under my arm. I didn't need her to see me as powerful or sharp or changed. I needed her to see me as finished. When she opened the door, she had makeup on, and her hair done in that way she always did when she wanted to appear effortless, but had clearly tried. The living room smelled like candles. Music was playing, soft jazz, her favorite healing playlist. I stepped inside and immediately felt like a guest in a place that used to be mine. She reached out like she wanted to hug me. I stepped back gently but firmly. "I'm not here for that," I said. Something in her froze. We sat at the dining table, the same one where she once laughed with a glass of wine in her hand and made me the punchline in front of our friends. That same table was now silent. No laughter, no audience. I placed the folder on the table and slid it toward her. She looked at it like it might explode. "What is this?" she asked. "My line," I said. She didn't open it right away, just stared at me, eyes flickering between confusion and denial. "Are you really doing this? After all this time? After everything?" "Yes." My voice didn't shake. I thought it would, but it didn't. "And not because of what you did with him. That just revealed what you've been doing for years, treating me like I'm disposable, like my silence equals agreement." She swallowed hard. "It was a mistake, Mark. I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted." "No, Chloe. You knew exactly what you wanted. You just never thought I'd stop letting you have it." Her hands hovered over the folder. "This doesn't have to be permanent. We could talk. Try something. Therapy, maybe? I've been thinking a lot about how I've treated you." I almost laughed. Therapy? Now? After everything? After years of her steamrolling over my emotions like they were traffic cones? "I don't want to fix what was never respected," I said. "You didn't break a vase. You broke me." And I finally picked up the pieces. Her lips trembled. She blinked fast, like that would stop her eyes from welling up. But I stayed seated, calm, still. I wasn't there to comfort her. That part of me had been buried under years of sarcasm disguised as affection. She finally opened the folder. Divorce papers. Clean, straightforward, nothing petty. I wasn't there to ruin her. I was there to leave with what was mine. My name, my voice, and the freedom to be more than someone's joke. As I stood up, she whispered, "You really hate me now, don't you?" I paused at the doorway, my hand on the frame. "No, I don't hate you. I just finally love myself more than your approval." And then, for the first time in years, I walked out of that house without looking back. The morning after I served the papers, I woke up in Leo's basement to something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Not revenge, not satisfaction, just peace. That kind of stillness that comes when you stop fighting to be heard by someone who was never listening. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the world go on. Cars passed, birds argued in the trees. The sky was that gray-blue that promises nothing but gives you enough to keep going. And for once, I didn't feel behind. I didn't feel lesser. I felt free. Chloe tried reaching out once more. A long email filled with nostalgia, excuses wrapped in memories. She mentioned the trip to Oregon, the way I used to make her laugh before bed, the time she got sick and I stayed up with her all night. She said she missed the version of us that worked. But that version of us only worked for her. I had just been surviving it. I didn't reply. Instead, I started doing small things, reclaiming things. I got a haircut, not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I realized I'd been keeping it long because she liked it that way. I threw out clothes I never liked wearing. I reopened my old sketch pad, the one I hadn't touched in 6 years, and I sketched for hours. Not perfectly, not professionally, but freely. A month later, I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment downtown. It had crooked cabinets and a squeaky floor, but it was mine. All mine. I bought furniture piece by piece, nothing fancy, just what I needed. I painted the walls without asking anyone's opinion. I slept diagonally on the bed just because I could. One Sunday afternoon, I went to a community art fair just to walk around. A woman at one of the booths complimented my shirt. I laughed, an honest, surprised laugh. She smiled back and said, "You look like someone who finally came up for air." I didn't know what to say. Maybe because she was right. I'm not saying everything's perfect now. Healing isn't some grand movie moment. It's quiet. It's choosing yourself in small ways every single day. But I can finally breathe. I can look in the mirror without wondering if I'm enough. Because I am. I always was. I just needed to stop standing next to someone who made me forget it. So, if you're out there feeling like a shadow in your own story, just know this. You don't have to wait for someone else to value you. Start walking, even if it's slow, even if it's terrifying. Because on the other side of that silence is a version of you that's been waiting to come back to life. And I finally found mine.